India, the land of diverse cultures and civilizations, has always played a pivotal role in world history. Long before the advent of modern nation-states, ancient India was a beacon of military, economic, and cultural prowess. While India's influence in spirituality, trade, and arts is often highlighted, its military might is frequently underappreciated. One of the most telling moments in history, which underscores India's strength as a military superpower, was during the campaigns of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BCE. Contrary to popular manipulated historical accounts, the reality of Alexander's experience in India reveals not only his fear but also his eventual defeat by the Indian king, Porus, and later by the Mauryan dynasty. India as a superpower. A land of wealth and wisdom. Ancient India was a land of immense wealth, advanced knowledge, and organized empires. By the time Alexander embarked on his campaign in India, it was already renowned for its rich culture, scientific achievements, and military organization. The subcontinent had long been united under several powerful dynasties, including the Nandas and the Mauryas, who maintained vast armies and economic prosperity. India's cities, such as Pataliputra, were marvels of urban planning, filled with massive populations, sophisticated architecture, and an efficient administrative system. India's wealth was legendary throughout the ancient world. The abundance of resources, especially in terms of spices, gold, and textiles, made the subcontinent a crucial center for international trade. Ancient texts describe India as a land where the people had access to an incredible standard of living, thanks in large part to their agricultural surplus and thriving economy. This wealth translated into powerful military capabilities. Indian kings maintained vast armies with advanced weaponry, including war elephants, chariots, archers, and cavalry. India's geography, with its difficult terrain and diverse climate, further provided natural protection against invaders. This made India not just a cultural and economic powerhouse, but also a formidable military superpower in the ancient world. Alexander's invasion of India. The historical context. By the time Alexander the Great reached India in 327 BCE, he had already conquered a significant portion of the known world. His empire stretched from Greece through Egypt, Persia, and into Central Asia. However, his campaign in India was to be his last significant military endeavor, and it proved far more challenging than he had anticipated. Alexander's plan was to expand his empire further east by conquering the rich and powerful lands of India. He crossed the Hindu Kush mountains and arrived at the Indus River, where he faced King Porus, the ruler of the region between the Jhelum and Chenab rivers in modern-day Punjab. Porus had gathered a formidable army, including a large number of war elephants, which were virtually unknown to Alexander's forces. These elephants, along with Porus's superior knowledge of the terrain, presented a severe challenge to the Macedonian army. Porus and the Battle of the Hydaspes, the reality of Alexander's defeat. The Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BCE between Alexander and King Porus has often been presented in mainstream historical narratives as a victory for Alexander. However, closer analysis of ancient Indian and even Greek sources suggests a far more complex reality. Porus's army, though smaller in number, was significantly bolstered by his use of war elephants, a powerful and intimidating force that the Macedonians had never encountered before. The elephants wreaked havoc on Alexander's troops, causing massive casualties and confusion among the Macedonian infantry and cavalry. While traditional history paints the battle as an Alexander victory, Indian sources tell a different story. Many Indian scholars argue that the outcome of the battle was either a stalemate or a narrow defeat for Alexander. After all, despite his supposed victory, Alexander did not continue his conquests in India. Instead, he quickly sought peace with Porus, treating him with respect and allowing him to retain his kingdom. This move is often interpreted as an acknowledgement of the formidable challenge that Porus had presented and a desire to avoid further conflict in the region. Moreover, Alexander's army was exhausted and demoralized by their encounter with the Indian forces. They were unprepared for the harsh Indian climate, and the fierce resistance they encountered from Porus made them reluctant to push further into the subcontinent. Alexander's soldiers, many of whom had been fighting for years across vast territories, were terrified of facing more Indian armies, particularly those that utilized war elephants. The fear instilled in Alexander's troops by the Indian armies became a significant factor in his decision to turn back and abandon his plans to conquer more of India. This stands as a testament to India's military might during this period. The manipulation of history. How Alexander's victory was fabricated. The narrative of Alexander's supposed victory over Porus has been perpetuated by Greek historians, who understandably wanted to portray their leader in the best possible light. These accounts, written by individuals who were loyal to Alexander, downplayed the challenges posed by the Indian armies and the strategic blunders made during the campaign. Greek historians such as Mauryan and Plutarch, who lived centuries after Alexander, relied heavily on the works of contemporary chroniclers who were part of Alexander's campaign. These chroniclers, eager to maintain the legend of Alexander as an invincible conqueror, framed the Battle of the Hydaspes as a hard-fought but inevitable victory. They emphasized Alexander's tactical brilliance, while glossing over the harsh reality that his troops were on the verge of mutiny and that the battle had been far from the decisive triumph they portrayed. Furthermore, there is little to no reliable evidence that Alexander had any real success in subjugating the Indian territories. After his encounter with Porus, Alexander's campaign came to a halt, and he began his retreat from India. The fact that he made no serious attempts to conquer other Indian kingdoms, despite his supposed victory, raises questions about the veracity of the traditional narrative. The rise of the Mauryan Empire, defeating the Greeks and securing India's superpower status. Following Alexander's retreat, the Indian subcontinent witnessed the rise of one of the most powerful empires in its history, the Mauryan Empire. Founded by Chandragupta Maurya, this empire not only succeeded in unifying much of India, but also in repelling the remnants of Alexander's forces. After Alexander's death in 323 BCE, his empire was divided among his generals, with Seleucus the Nicator taking control of the eastern provinces, including the territories bordering India. Seleucus attempted to invade India in 305 BCE, but was decisively defeated by Chandragupta Maurya. This victory signified the end of Greek ambitions in India and further established the Mauryan Empire's dominance. Chandragupta's defeat of Seleucus is significant for several reasons. First, it demonstrated that even in the wake of Alexander's death, the Greek Empire was no match for the organized military might of ancient India. Second, the terms of the peace treaty that followed the conflict were highly favorable to the Mauryan Empire. Seleucus ceded large territories, including parts of modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan, to Chandragupta in exchange for 500 war elephants, further underscoring the Mauryan Empire's superiority in military strength. Chandragupta's successors, particularly his grandson Ashoka, continued to expand the empire, making it one of the largest and most powerful in the world at the time. The Mauryan Empire's military might, combined with its sophisticated administration and vast economic resources, cemented India's status as a superpower in the ancient world. India's military legacy, a force that even the Greeks feared. The story of Alexander's campaign in India, along with the rise of the Mauryan Empire, highlights the military power that ancient India wielded. From the skilled use of war elephants to the strategic acumen of rulers like Porus and Chandragupta, India's military strength was undeniable. Even at the height of their power, the Greeks, under the leadership of Alexander and Seleucus, were unable to subdue India. Instead, they were forced to retreat and recognize the superiority of the Indian forces. This is a testament to the fact that ancient India was not only a cultural and economic superpower, but also a formidable military force that could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest empires of its time. In conclusion, Ancient India was a military superpower that successfully resisted one of the most celebrated conquerors in history, Alexander the Great. The reality of the Battle of the Hydaspes and the subsequent defeat of Seleucus by Chandragupta Maurya paints a picture of a vast and powerful Indian civilization that the Greeks, even at their zenith, could not overcome. This legacy of military strength, combined with India's rich culture, economy, and administrative prowess, firmly establishes ancient India as one of the greatest superpowers in world history. Beyond the physical might of the Indian military, ancient India's strategic and intellectual understanding of warfare played a crucial role in its successes. The Indian military tradition wasn't just based on sheer numbers or brute force, but also on a nuanced understanding of strategy, logistics, and the use of terrain and weather in battle. Indian kings like Chandragupta Maurya, inspired by ancient texts such as the Arthashastra, which was composed by his chief advisor Kautilya, Chanakya, showcased strategic brilliance that rivaled and often surpassed that of their Western counterparts. The Arthashastra was not just a treatise on governance, but also included comprehensive guidance on military strategy, espionage, diplomacy, and statecraft. This profound understanding of military tactics allowed Indian rulers to not only defend their realms from invaders, but also expand their territories and consolidate power over vast areas. Indian rulers were adept at balancing military might with diplomacy. For example, Chandragupta's peace settlement with Seleucus was not just a victory in battle, but also a brilliant diplomatic coup. By offering Seleucus war elephants in exchange for the strategic territories west of the Indus, Chandragupta strengthened his empire and ensured the Greek rulers' withdrawal from the region, all without further bloodshed. This careful balance of force and diplomacy was a hallmark of Indian statecraft and added to India's reputation as a superpower. The use of war elephants, unique to India at that time, was a game-changer in ancient warfare. These massive beasts struck terror into the hearts of enemy forces, including Alexander's well-trained soldiers. War elephants were like ancient tanks, and their sheer size and strength could break enemy formations, trample infantry, and disrupt cavalry maneuvers. India's mastery of these animals added a distinctive advantage that armies from other parts of the world found difficult to counter. Following the defeat of Seleucus, the Mauryan Empire emerged as not just a regional power, but a global superpower. Under Chandragupta and later his grandson Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire became one of the most extensive and powerful empires of the ancient world, rivaling the likes of the Roman and Persian empires. One of the reasons for the Mauryan Empire's sustained dominance was its advanced administrative system. The empire was divided into provinces, each governed by a trusted official who ensured the smooth functioning of the state machinery. This level of organization allowed the Mauryan rulers to maintain control over vast territories, even in far-flung regions of the empire. The Mauryan Empire was not just a military superpower, but also an economic one. With its vast natural resources, efficient agriculture, and thriving trade routes, the empire generated immense wealth. The Mauryas controlled important trade routes, both land and sea, that connected India to Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. This economic strength bolstered their military, allowing them to maintain a large standing army and engage in ambitious projects like building roads, fortifications, and public works. Ashoka the Great, Chandragupta's grandson, initially expanded the empire even further through military campaigns, but his experience of the destructive Kalinga War led to a dramatic change in his outlook. After witnessing the immense suffering caused by the war, Ashoka renounced violence and embraced Buddhism. While his transformation is often viewed through the lens of spirituality, it was also a political masterstroke. Ashoka's turn to non-violence and promotion of peace, law, and morality solidified the internal unity of his empire and enhanced India's standing as a moral and cultural superpower respected across Asia. India's influence as a superpower wasn't confined to its military might or its economic prowess. Culturally, India left a profound mark on civilizations far beyond its borders. Ancient Indian thought, particularly in the realms of philosophy, science, and religion, deeply influenced neighboring cultures in Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and beyond. The spread of Buddhism under Ashoka, for instance, marked a significant extension of India's cultural influence. Ashoka's missionaries spread Buddhism across Asia, including in regions that had previously been part of Alexander's empire, such as Bactria and the Hellenistic kingdoms. Indian philosophy, art, and religious ideas became integral to the cultural development of many Asian societies, from Tibet to China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. This soft power, driven by moral and intellectual leadership, further reinforced India's status as a global superpower. Even in the Greek world, India was regarded as a land of wisdom. Greek philosophers, including Pythagoras, and later scholars such as Pliny and Strabo, were fascinated by India's knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Indian texts on science, particularly in areas like algebra, geometry, and medicine, were transmitted to the Hellenistic world and later formed part of the knowledge base of the Islamic Golden Age, which in turn influenced the European Renaissance. Even after the fall of the Mauryan Empire, India continued to exhibit military resilience and cultural vitality. The subcontinent faced numerous invasions from Central Asian nomads, Persian empires, and eventually Islamic armies. But India's ability to assimilate and adapt while maintaining its core identity ensured its survival as a superpower through successive ages. The Gupta Empire, which followed the Mauryas, is often considered a golden age in Indian history, particularly in terms of cultural and intellectual achievements. Like the Mauryas, the Guptas maintained a powerful military and exerted control over a large portion of the subcontinent, further establishing India's long-lasting influence. The legacy of ancient India's military prowess continued to shape the geopolitical landscape of Asia for centuries. Indian armies not only defended the subcontinent, but also launched campaigns into Central Asia, influencing the development of civilizations along the Silk Road. The trade routes that India controlled helped spread its cultural, scientific, and economic innovations across the world. Even after the Mauryan and Gupta empires, Indian military traditions remained strong. The Rajput kingdoms, for instance, were known for their fierce resistance against invaders, and India's resilience against the Mongols and the eventual rise of powerful kingdoms such as the Vijayanagara Empire and the Marathas demonstrated the continuing legacy of ancient military traditions. India's ancient legacy of governance, military organization, and diplomatic strategy served as a model for later empires, both in South Asia and beyond. The Mughal Empire, for example, drew heavily on the administrative systems developed by the Mauryas and the Guptas. In summation, ancient India was undoubtedly a superpower in every sense of the word, economically, culturally, and militarily. Its formidable armies, strategic acumen, and diplomatic finesse ensured that even mighty conquerors like Alexander could not subdue it. The defeat of Seleucus by Chandragupta Maurya further demonstrated that India was not a land that could be easily conquered or controlled by external forces. India's strength lay not only in its military might, but also in its advanced political structures, economic wealth, and cultural influence. The spread of Indian ideas, from Buddhism to mathematics, helped shape the intellectual and cultural landscapes of the ancient world. India's resilience against invasions, its ability to absorb and influence outside cultures, and its status as a moral and cultural beacon further solidified its position as one of the great superpowers of antiquity. Today, as we look back on history, it is essential to recognize and restore the true narrative of India's ancient greatness. A greatness that was not only military, but also cultural, intellectual, and moral, standing alongside the mightiest empires of the ancient world.